One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.
Welcome back, everyone, to One Word.
You sounded like a game show host just now.
I think I said it exactly the same as I always do.
Sorry. Go ahead.
One word.
One word.
Great. So I need an update, first of all.
Okay.
I'm going to update you. So last season, we had a word. The word was phobia.
Oh, yeah.
You, Rozzy, and I, we share a phobia.
I don't remember a phobia.
The phone. When you're walking down the street.
When you're walking down the street, you're going to drop it down the sewer.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, the
or
little,
off the bridge.
The little, little slits in the sewer. It's going to go just magically between that.
Yep.
We were at a parade.
No.
A couple weeks ago. And my daughter has her glasses on her head. And we're sitting on the curb. And she just bends down and magically the glasses go right down the little slit in the sewer.
No way.
See, it's
Not
not
even
irrational. It's not irrational.
It is not irrational, therefore it is not a phobia. I
Yep.
take that back
Yeah.
from last season. All right, I went on with that update without even introducing everybody at the table right here. So let's do that real quick. I'm Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
Annie Barsh.
We've got Annie is our guest. Annie, tell us where you're from. Do you want to plug your company or anything
I'm
like
also a
that?
therapist, and I have a practice called Mind Matters out in Elburn.
That is great. And this is actually your second time with us.
It is.
Yeah.
Last time I
think
was nice.
You were nice in season 2, I think. That was season
Man.
2. And go ahead.
I'm Rozzy.
And I'm Harmon.
And we're all back together again today, and it feels so good. Could you tell what song that was?
Oh, I
without
knew
me
as
even
soon-
saying any words?
Yeah,
there?
you didn't. Before you even sang it, I knew it. I knew it was coming, and I
Okay.
loved it.
Great, good. Well, we had a great episode today on healing. Oftentimes, we will share our culinary tips. For example, we've had the...
Do you?
We have had your wonderful recipe of the fruitcake French toast.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
we've had that recipe. And today, I share with you all an ancient recipe for healing a wound
Macedonian
from
style.
2200 BC. We should use that. Why don't we? Macedonian style. It's not far into the episode, but please listen and see what you think of that recipe.
And if you have a chance to try it, let us know how
Grab
that
your
goes.
pen and
We're
Yeah.
not doctors. We don't recommend trying anything.
Do not try this at
If you
home.
find yourself curious,
My
I don't know.
bad. I mean, but if you try it, let us know. No.
Yeah. It was a great episode.
That was really great. We talked about different styles of healing and how
Yeah.
body healing looks pretty similar for everyone in terms of like repairing a wound.
Yeah.
But other types of healing looks different for everyone. I'm not going to spoil it. You should go listen to it.
Yeah.
But just depending on what your pain or your trauma is to begin with.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Yes.
Are you guys ready? Mm-hmm. Dang it. What is we don't have to keep this in, but what is the worst wound that you've had?
Like
Like-
physically?
Like physical
Wound to
wound.
wound.
Yeah.
Okay. I had my appendix out, but I wouldn't. Yeah, that's probably it.
I've had so many wounds.
Have you?
Yeah. I fractured my skull when I was 2, and then
Wow.
I fell off a cliff when I was 3.
You fell off a cliff?
Yeah, I almost fell
I
into
am a
the-
mandated reporter over here.
I almost fell into a river off of a cliff in some family friend's backyard, and I broke my clavicle.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay.
Now, the breaking of the clavicle part, that's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
The falling off the cliff part is the takeaway.
Crazy.
Okay, all right.
My C-section scar burst open. That was probably the most painful thing I experienced.
How much after,
I gave birth on Monday, and it burst open Friday.
Oh my
The day
God.
after they took out the stitches. So
What in the world?
it was no bueno.
Oh, that's crazy.
Because I should have been mindful and resting.
Oh, was it your fault?
Oh.
You talk a little about your impatience in the episode.
Yes, I do.
Intriguing, man. Oh, I'm like imagining that. That'd be terrible. I had when I was 8, I was an avid tea drinker, and I had 2nd-degree burns on both of my legs from the tea. I was drinking it, and I spilt it, and I had this really thick robe on, and the doctor was like, having this thick robe on actually saved your legs. Oh my
God.
It
That's
could have
not
been
funny.
way worse. And yeah, it was it was bad.
Now,
It was
I'm
real
curious because in the episode, we also talk about the skin.
bad. Yeah.
Right. By the way, do we know that we have like 300 million cells in our skin? That's one of the things I learned in this episode. Do you feel like that skin serves one of those 4 functions the same as it did before? Would you even remember?
So it's funny that you say that because I think about, I also have quite a few wounds, I feel like, or a lot of things. And I feel like it's like if I looked at my legs right now, I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell like, oh, you had some really bad 2nd-degree burns when you were younger.
Okay.
But like if you look at some other things, like, oh, I can feel the difference in the smoothness. Now, if I looked hard into like maybe the hair is a little bit different, maybe it's not growing the same type
Cold
thing.
and heat, can you feel
But
that
it's
the
like,
same?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's because it happened when I was so young. I don't know if I just was really good at healing. I don't know.
Well, but that healing process takes a long time, so you
Right. So
you know.
at this point, so it could have, yeah. by
Your legs
now
are
been
probably
good.
at least 85% better.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I cut my toe off.
Ew.
Completely.
like off?
It was hanging there.
Just like a little hinge?
How did
Was
you
it
manage
just-
that?
I was on the step in my garage when I was a kid, and I was reaching for a pool towel that was hanging on the handle of a bicycle, and my heel slipped off of the step, and there was a garbage bag on the garage floor. There was a silver can top in the bag that went through it
Oh, my
and into my
goodness.
toe. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel it.
Oh, God.
I just saw all the blood.
You said your big toe?
My left big toe.
Left
yeah,
big toe.
they sewed it back on.
Do you?
I don't feel it, though.
You don't feel your toe?
I don't feel my big toe.
Wait. Like you don't have feeling in your big toe, or you can't tell that your toe had been like falling off, or like your toe is gone.
You got so
Or
many
like
So when
like
it
it's like
happened,
phantom?
I did not feel it
Okay.
at all because. Well,
But now, like, can you curl your big toe? If
I
said
can
curl your
move
big toe,
my
you can
big
like
toe,
do stuff.
but if you were to take you could dig your nail all the way into the tip of my big toe. I have no feeling in this one little quadrant of my big toe.
Can you move it independently from your other toes?
I'm clicking them right now.
lot of
I click my toes. Okay, how do you feel about that?
I feel good about that.
Okay, great.
Thanks, y'all.
Oh, what a great episode.
One thing we didn't talk about, sorry, I know we just talked a lot about all of our wounds. But one thing that we don't fully get to talk about is farts in a jar. I know that is not where you thought I was going to go. I bet you thought I was going to talk about cleansing, but I decided on farts in a jar. And that was a remedy that people had for they used to store their farts in a jar with the belief that the smell could dilute like deadly air vapors and like keep them healthy. So I'm just saying, like, we could keep trying this, you know?
There were like one of the along that line. There was doctors, and they would the prescription was to keep your goat in the house with you, so the fumes would, like the bad smell would be there, because that smell
Probably
was
along the
good.
same line. Yeah. It's going to help you stay healthy. Like, why have we stopped doing some of these things? Why are we putting fragrances in our home when we should be having bad smells in our, like goats and farts? Like, come on. Let's get it together.
Oh my gosh.
And beer.
And beer.
Well, my friends, I don't think we should talk on any longer. Without further ado, I just have one word for you. Healing.
Healing. Healing is the act or process of curing or restoring to health.
It said curing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the act or process of curing or restoring to health. But then the etymology.
Wait a second, though.
Waiting.
Let's just pause. Curing to me seems very. How do I want to describe it?
It's like
Vinyl?
a destination.
Okay.
One of my things about health is that it's a process and we're usually moving towards it or away from it. And so what I don't like or love about curing is it denotes that there's this end point of like you are cured or you know.
Yeah. Okay. Now tell me where you got it from.
I don't know where I got it
Oh,
from.
what were you going to say? The etymology?
I don't know. Let me go back.
Dominic, I told you. I already said
I
once.
don't know.
Don't make me repeat myself.
I don't know where that definition came from, and I'm sorry if it's a crappy definition and not the best one.
No, I don't think. I will say I think maybe people might view it as such.
As that, yeah.
But I don't know that that's the best thing for us.
Well, I've also heard people say health is the absence of sickness. And I also don't think that encompasses all of it. It's like it doesn't mean it's the presence of health, healthy behaviors, of feeling. There's feeling healthy, being healthy, having healthy behaviors. Again, are your behaviors and decisions moving you towards it or away from it? And it's not always. I can have pizza one day and salad another day. Some days it's one step towards, one step away.
Okay. Do you know do you know where it comes from?
Yes. It came from the Old English word Helan. I don't know how to say that.
That's okay.
Which means to make whole or restore to sound health is what was there.
Okay.
Okay.
So what is the first thing? So let's just put everything aside. Whatever we research, whatever our background, whatever, just put it aside.
Done.
What do you think that people who are listening would, when you say heal or healing, what is the first thing you think maybe people might think of?
Get better.
Yeah, like recovering.
Yeah, like maybe you have a scratch and it like heals itself.
All right, that's where I was going to go. Maybe it's because I have 4 children. We had lots of scratches, you know? So, but I think healing is like maybe that process of owie, better, right? It's
The
that.
simplified version.
Yeah.
Well said.
Right?
Well said.
And Band-Aids can fix anything.
I don't know that the Band-Aid actually does, kids. I'm just going to put it out there.
Just makes you feel better.
I
Yeah.
think the body's doing
Only
some stuff.
the
okay?
cartoon ones actually work.
Yeah.
So let's go down that road just a second here. One of the oldest medical manuscripts known is the Sumerian clay tablet of Mesopotamia. We know what Mesopotamia is, right? We can go back to our history classes there. It dates back to 2200 BC. This tablet described the process of healing specifically as it relates to wounds. Okay, so you've cut yourself, you ride your bike, although I don't think they were riding their bikes.
Sure they were. How else would they get
They
around?
just
The
got
wheel
those
invented.
wheels. Yeah, right. They fall. That's when healing started because
That
then
is.
they started falling off those wheels.
So the process was, number
Thank
one,
you, Rossi.
washing the wound. Okay. 2, wound dressing. 3, wound bandaging. all things which kind of we do today.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what though, right? So here's the actual. This is a big thing I'm sharing with our audience now.
Okay.
Because this is the recipe.
Thank goodness.
Pound together
Gosh.
fir turpentine,
Fir turpentine.
I got some right here. Carry it with me always.
pine turpentine,
Oh.
tamarisk, daisy, flower of Ininu strain, mix in milk and beer in small copper pan.
Wait.
I'm waiting for you.
This is
That was
the
my brakes.
Mesopotamians.
Yes.
The Mesopotamians had beer.
Oh, yes.
I thought it would have been like meat or something.
No, it was beer. It was alcohol. It was
Oh,
alcohol.
like that makes sense though, because alcohol is like.
Yes.
Like,
So,
yeah.
so basically, though, what
Did
this
that make sense though?
I mean, I probably
like,
wouldn't
well,
recommend
it
like
makes sense to
pouring
me.
beer
I
on
mean,
an
there
open
were
wound,
times
but
in periods of time when people would drink beer and alcohol and whiskey because it was safer
Then the water.
than the water.
The Mesopotamians?
Yes, they made beer.
Okay.
Yes, give me 1 second, and then I'll touch more on that. Okay. Touch you more. I'm not going to do that. That is not what's going to happen. That's not
family friendly.
I'm skipping over that. Beer in a small copper pan. Spread on the skin, bind, and he shall recover. Oh. That's the quote from it, okay? So wounds were washed with water and milk and dressed with honey and resin. Ew. And then also they did use things like conifer, myrrh, frankincense. They were also used in the bandaging process. But it goes on to say that because the beer was used, beer is actually the oldest wound healing thing that we have in written history. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. So the frankincense and myrrh that were first used in Egypt and Mesopotamia, they're still used in several ways.
Interesting.
How do they use it? Was that what I was supposed to say there?
So frankincense and myrrh are both aromatics. They're extracted from trees. Essential oils and aromatherapy are still things that we use. 2200 BC. And I gave you all the recipe there. But there's still elements of it that we're using today. Maybe we're using them in a slightly different way. So aromatherapy, for example, isn't necessarily helping the owie from the bike scratch. I don't have one. I'm just showing you nothing. It's just like here's.
I thought you were just showing off the watch, and I was like,
Healed
"Oh, that's
skin.
cool.
Yeah, I wasn't
Nice
sure.
watch."
Yeah, people use honey
Yeah.
for their throats and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started talking about cuts, right? How does our body actually heal itself if we have a wound?
Well.
Oh no, you go.
Oh, okay. Well,
We're
I
going to
was,
fight over it.
yeah.
And I have some frankincense and myrrh if there's a bloody bath on it.
Oh, thank God. At least we have the recipe.
Right here.
Well, first you get the wound, and then you.
Oh, how do you get a wound? Tell
Well,
me.
there are many ways you can get wounds. But like, let's just talk like traditional scratch, right? Mm-hmm. Then eventually your body achieves hemostasis, where you have blood clots and it's clotting the blood, and that usually happens within like the first few seconds or minutes after the initial wound. And then your body starts to produce collagen, and it just sort of begins that healing process itself. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I've read this thing. The collagen are like these fibery things. They're like like finger stringy things.
They're kind of creepy.
And so as the blood goes in there, they create this like, I hope you like my hand. They create this net-y thing that stops things from both leaving and entering. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the thing that I found the most interesting while I was researching this was that your skin doesn't reach the same level of strength until like on average 3 months after the initial wound, which I was kind of like, oh, it's 2 weeks. I don't see anything anymore. It's just kind of better now, but it's still like healing months and sometimes years after.
Yes, that's what I read that it doesn't ever actually get to 100%.
Really?
Which kind of goes back to what we were
Right.
And yes, it's up to like a year, and it only gets to 50 to 80% of its original functionality.
Right.
So this might not necessarily be strength or things like that, but what is our skin for? To
Not make us look creepy with just our skeletons.
That's great.
That's a good starting point.
To
Yeah.
help us feel cold or heat. It's there to help us sweat. It's there to grow hair. Like those are functionalities of
Why?
it. But have you
Holding all those organelles in too.
Right, yes, that's true too. That's true too. So have you ever like gotten a wound and then like maybe hair doesn't grow back there, like someone on the head or things like that?
I have a
You've got a okay.
little,
But yeah, 50 to 80% is all you're going to get back from that.
That's crazy.
Isn't that insane a little
Yeah.
bit?
Well, and that makes me think of one of the things I was contemplating, and that is, I think this statement applies to all that we're talking about. Health and sickness can't always be seen.
Yes. So the healing is not always a process that is seen. I mean, we can see. I'll show you again.
Yeah.
Your invisible wound.
But you actually
Dominic
do.
needs a
Wait, no,
Band-Aid.
you do have one right there, though. Yeah, there's like a little scratch
I
right
do.
there.
I do. It's probably from me pulling my sleeve off like this. Well, I mean, we see this, and we see the blood clot happening, and we see the scab, which is our body's own kids. Your body has its own bandage. It's called the scab, okay? And we see that, and we see that it's healing, and we see it go away, and we see all these things happen. And so that type of healing, because it's visible, something I think maybe sometimes because it's visible, it's more seen as something that's a little more universal to people.
Yeah.
I don't know, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're in a different period in time than when, like, I was a kid.
I think.
Yes.
just
In
by
many ways.
a couple of years.
Oh man, the look that Dominic gave me, Carmen, was amazing.
But I still think there are some things about healings that we don't see that maybe people might be embarrassed by, or people might not want to share, or sometimes maybe not even acknowledge in the same way. Why are there different types of healing processes that need to occur that people don't, I don't know if value is the same word, but see the same way or give as much legitimacy to in their necessity?
I mean, I'll pull this in as a mental health provider. I have clients all the time that are going through something extraordinarily traumatic, and they will say, I'd rather have a broken arm, broken leg, full body cast, because then people see my level of pain and respond accordingly and appropriately. Whereas when it's emotional pain or an internal pain, or kind of like I said before, a hidden pain, then I have to go through explaining it, and maybe people understand it, maybe they don't understand it, and people are making assumptions about what I can or can't do. And so it gets into a whole other realm when there's hidden pain or, sickness, things we can't see.
Does all healing need to come from pain, though? Let me ask that question. Or can healing need to occur without there even being pain? Does that make, like...
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that just called growth?
Oh, okay. So then it's not healing. That's a legitimate question. I have nothing in this 34 pages of research here that I'm going to pull out that are going to say anything.
I think that related to sports. It's like if I'm going to go run 10 miles and I'm not equipped to do that, I'm going to hurt myself.
Yes.
Whereas if I take the proper steps and I grow into that, then I should be able to do it. So I think sometimes we can avoid pain by taking the route of preparation, growth, whatever that looks like.
Yes.
So healing without pain would be growth.
Yeah, because I feel like healing implies that there was something
Something.
in the
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
place.
like something
There
wrong.
was a cut, an incident, a infection.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wound.
Yeah.
It can be the fall. It can be cancer. It can be a trauma.
Yeah.
It can be any of those things that require us, I think, to do something. Even the wound that we just talked about, that healing process you brought up there. Perhaps me as a person, although there are things I can do, I can smear beer on it.
Yeah.
But
Keep your sleeve down.
but the body, the cells, there's action occurring to heal it. Okay? So with that action and with those steps, that is the healing process.
And something you said earlier, which I'm forgetting how you worded it, but I think that sometimes when it comes to healing, you were saying something about like it requires us to do something.
Yes.
And sometimes
action.
that action is not doing anything. Because you mentioned scabs earlier, and I am a notorious scab picker from birth. I am a scab picker, and I could tell you some like crazy gruesome stories, but I will not. I really want to. And I used to fall a lot, and I would hurt myself a lot. And my first thing, like, I'm gonna pick that scab. It takes a lot for me to not do it, but when you're picking that scab, that's not helping. That's making it worse. That takes a lot longer for that healing, for that process to occur. And sometimes you're making it a lot worse. There's infections that are now coming. There's impurities coming in there that you're allowing to come in because you're not just letting it do its job and letting it kind of heal itself. And so sometimes we have to like take a step back and just let it do its thing.
That's very, I love that. That's very insightful, that doing or not doing based on what is needed with that healing process.
I had a foot surgery, and the doctor was like, I know you're stubborn. So if you lay in bed for 4 days, this will get better in a week. If you try to do all the things, it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. Wow. And it was the
What
not
did you do?
action. I stayed in bed for 4 days.
I'm proud of
Good
you.
job.
Nicely done. It's so hard though. It's hard to do nothing when you're like, but there's so much other things that I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask this then. Is healing an isolated thing? The wound required what I will call an army, right? Inside your body to heal it. Laying in bed for 4 days with a family requires a bit of an army, other people to aid in that healing. So is it possible always to fully heal isolated?
I think it depends on your wound, right? Like if I cut myself and I leave that alone, like I don't need other people to be like, oh,
Right.
let me hold this hand and let you keep it still. Like minor things.
But if
minor.
metaphorically,
But if we think about like other stuff, right? Yeah. If you're thinking about like, oh, your skin is the army, like things like that, then yeah, it's gonna take like lots of things. When you're talking about certain types of wounds or things, then like people, right? Like there's what was I reading about? The healing power of human connection, right?
yeah.
Or even just like with doctors or nurses. So I think it does, or, like family coming along to help you or people to listen to you. So I do think like putting yourself in isolation and not allowing yourself kind of like holding on to those wounds, holding on to what is hurting or harming you and trying to fix it yourself by either doing or not doing something can be more harmful versus letting other people in to whatever that is. Ow.
Yeah, that's a
I
sharp
need
edge.
you.
Army, go.
I need my army.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you mentioned something.
What did I mention?
You mentioned the human connection. You read something about human connection.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that and other ways, other things and ways we can heal activities, things that help us down those paths. What did you read about human connection?
So there is this guy. Is this the one I was reading? There's this guy. His name is somebody.
It's a vague name. Good
yeah,
job, parents.
Right? You never know. Parents these days know. His name is David Raquel.
Okay.
I don't know. And he has this book called The Compassionate Connection, The Healing Power of Empathy and Mindful Listening. And in there, he kind of talks about like, there is healing power in the human connection in listening to somebody and giving them advice, or just kind of like being with them through different things. And so, okay, let me pause and let me say Happy National Caregivers Month.
All right. Happy.
It's November, and this is National Caregivers Month. And I used to do a lot of reading. So I help caregive for my mother, who currently, she has cancer called multiple myeloma. And this is year 4, I think, something like that. And so my dad and I kind of joint caregive. And I was like early on into the caregiving journey, I was reading about different things, or I went to this group of other caregivers, and they were like, here's why caregiving is important. Like, not only are you helping, like with their medicine, or like, bathing or different things like that and all this other stuff, but just your presence alone being there is giving them something to look forward to as well. It's giving them a person to lean on, whereas they might not have had necessarily that listening ear or person to help them. And so now just having another presence there is giving them this strength of like, yes, I can do this. This person is helping me to move on and to get to a place where I can be better. And that can look like different things. And so prior to that, I just kind of saw it as, yeah, I'm going to go, I'm helping my mom. But then looking at like, not just me, I can be such a busy person where I'm like, let me go cook, let me go clean, let me do this. But sometimes just like sitting there, right? Like being still and listening and being there with them is both healing to them and to me. Like, it has been, y'all, okay, I told you I might cry. Yeah, where's the tissues? It has been such a journey. It has been such a journey, and it's been so amazing. And sometimes I feel like I am failing so much as a I know Dominic's face just now was like, stop it.
Right, you're showing up. That is success.
Yeah. And I know my mom is listening right now. But like, it's been such a blessing to be able to be there. And to see both like her just like steps in growth towards like healing. And, we've kind of like had these ups and downs, but I've also seen like within me, just like our relationship growing, me and my father, and like, even just with like listening and I don't know, all this stuff. Guys, I haven't cried yet. But seeing all that and knowing like, it's not just going and being busy, but it actually is taking part in both this person's healing process, and it's like doing something for me as well.
Well, I was going to say, so I feel there are multiple levels of healing that occur in a family as you're describing there. And you can interrupt me anytime you want because you're that professional. But I feel, so your mom, there's the body healing, right? There's also the emotional healing that might need to happen for that person.
Yeah.
But then there's the healing that needs to happen for you during that and your father and all these things. And so it's this, you just described this, I'm going to use the word again, this army from the time you went to this group and you talked with people about, right, like, it is those blood cells all rushing to stop bad things from coming in and blood from escaping, right? That's that immediate threat, and it needs lots of attention from lots of people. And as you've gone down the healing road, you just said you listen better, you do these things better. You're getting, maybe your family relationships have those fibers that have come in and made you stronger with one another. I just feel like healing is a much more massive process than that thing we see.
Yeah. And I think I forget that, like, not to keep talking about me, but I forget that in this process of, like, everybody's got a lot of things and hurts and things happening in their lives, right? And, like, just kind of specifically talking about this with my mom, like, I forget that, yeah, she's going through this, but then I don't look at myself as, like, needing something or needing.
Well, you never do.
I know. I know. And so that too has been like this realization of kind of looking at yourself and being like, all right, person, like, what do you need? What kind of hurts are happening here? And how can you not just bypass this and be like, no, let me focus on this other person, but how can you also find this healing in different ways in order to both, like, care for this person and care for yourself?
Well, going back to what Dominic said earlier, how can we heal without maybe an incident or something happening? And we came up with growth is the answer. And it's like, so through this, you're either dealing with grief, dealing with what you can and can't control, accepting all these variables and relationally doing things, or you don't. And then down the road one day when she's not here, then that will be the incident or the thing that makes you have to do all those things. So it's like you're either growing now or an incident will happen and then the health
Triggers
and growing will come later.
What are ways then to go through that healing, growth, etc.? What are things we can do now? You mentioned one, and it is right here. Look what is...
Yeah, we can move my tissues. I didn't cry.
Okay, you didn't cry.
We'll
put them in.
put them in
Jen.
standby.
That's growth.
Hey!
Jen, can
I
you
think
see?
I cried last time on our podcast, didn't
Possibly.
I think I did.
What is that? What do I have there?
Stillness.
You said that, and that is something that I found, that sometimes stillness is healing, especially when sometimes we have a tendency to just fill our time. Just do this. If I do, that may not be always addressing. And so sometimes stillness and meditation, it says, deep breathing, some of those things can become crucial.
Well, and I would add tolerance. So people have a really hard time tolerating their own pain and an especially difficult time tolerating others' pain.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area of growth because, you know, very early on, one of those definitions of health was talking about making whole. We can't always do that. You know, not
the
everything.
skin only gets to 80%.
Right. Not everything is restored to full health. And so whether it's physical, relational, whatever, how do we accept, again, the things we can't control and tolerate suffering, sadness, illness? Those are all areas for growth that have to do. And I think you can find that in the stillness. Like the busyness takes you away from having to feel that and having to deal with that. Whereas the stillness, your body is maybe physically healing, but also your mind is like really processing and thinking about what's happening.
Love it.
And sorry,
Go
can
ahead.
I keep talking?
Yes,
I'm so
please.
sorry. I have so many
hope you
words. And I know, like, one way that my family deals also with, I forgot words just now. Words just left my head. Oh, with with healing too is like, as my family is Christian, and so our faith is like really important in that too. And so like I know with my mom, like we are prayerful. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
We are
Hit my wound. That's all.
we are prayerful people, and so like going to God and knowing, like, in our minds, like, God is the healer overall. And so having this faith of, like, God's gonna keep us through all these things, and it might, like, anyway, the cancer that my mom has, they call it incurable, but my mom is like, I know that God can do anything. And we have seen like so many like miracles and little things. And even though this cancer has come back now, it's kind of like gone up and down. We still are seeing healing in like so many different ways, kind of like we talked about before. So that's just been, I don't know. So that's been really cool to see too. But our faith is definitely like a huge thing in this like journey and process that we're going on to.
Yeah. I want to touch more on that, some of those spiritual things in a second. I'm just going to get through these. So the opposite of stillness is movement, right? So sometimes exercise can be a healing thing. Creative engagement. We talk a lot about creativity on this podcast, but sometimes creative engagement can be a healing thing. And relational engagement. So that community, as whether the community is people who are experiencing things like us, or the community is us and the people who need us, but those are some ways that we can aid ourselves down that path of healing as well. Right? So let's go back to then. What about some spiritual things?
So I did some research on other cultures' ideas of healing, and a lot of that goes into, I think in Western medicine, we see a lot of like focus on the body. Like if you have a broken arm, here's a cast, we'll fix it for you. And not so much focus on spiritual and mental states. So I did some research on that. And I just like to share a couple of interesting things that I found.
Yeah.
So mostly I was looking at traditional stuff from a couple of different cultures. One of them was Native American. So they have the healing practice of cleansing rituals or smudging, which gets rid of evil spirits and brings in good ones. And they also do kind of it's like a support group where they have a talking circle and a talking stick is passed around and everybody just kind of shares what's on their mind. And it's a really nice thing that they do. Latin America has the idea of curanderismo, which is a very old practice with both biological and spiritual roots. Uses a variety of methods, including the ingestion of medicinal plants. So they use like all kinds of stuff like that. They also use massages and saunas to cleanse the body and the spirit.
Interesting.
And then my final one that I looked at was traditional Chinese medicine, which includes Qi. It is a life energy that flows through the body on places known as meridian lines. And then the balance of two forces, yin and yang, must be achieved to be like kind of truly whole. And then that kind of also factors into a practice called acupuncture, which I'm sure you all are familiar with, which is the popular healing process that's meant to clear like the blocked lines in the body using needles.
I think the one thing that you said that really struck me about those was the balance element. I think there are so many in case you haven't gotten through that in what we've said already, but there's so much balance that needs to happen. You need the movement and the stillness. You need the time to help someone else heal, but you also need the time for you to heal. You've got all it's more than one thing. It's dealing with the immediate threat of purging blood and the latent threat of the full new skin forming. There's just such a balance and a multitasking that needs to happen in the healing process. So how do we get to the healing that we know today? I think our medicine today is a lot better than it was in 2200 BC.
Than just the beer and the daisies and stuff.
And you're grinding it up.
The grinding.
Yeah.
You have to like keep a lot of stuff on you. What if you're like on vacation in Mesopotamia and like
you just hit up a supermarket nearby and just grab a couple of things you need?
Yeah. There are we had to go through a lot of things to get to what we have today. For example, yes, go ahead.
I was just thinking about how dentists back in the day would give people cocaine.
Yes, they would.
Like, you were talking about herbs and plants, and it's like they have a big part in it, and there's been a lot of trial and error with that.
There has been a lot. Did you know marshmallows?
No.
Marshmallow was used for inflammation, to heal wounds, and to treat coughs. Yes.
Did it work?
Marshmallow. Well, do we use it?
Nah.
So first of all, marshmallow is a plant. Did you all know that
Like
marshmallow
marshmallow root.
Marshmallow root. It grows in marshy areas.
Oh.
Hence the marshmallow.
Mind blown.
Oh, there's like a marshmallow root tea, that
Yeah.
slippery elm for your throat.
Well, maybe we still do use it.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. So this was used by the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, and the Anglo-Saxons. So it was widely used. And it wasn't until France in the 19th century that they started to combine this gummy root with eggs and sugar to create this marshmallow snack.
Oh man.
However, the thing we call a marshmallow has no marshmallow root in it.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's how marshmallows
It
are.
was too much work
Oh, man.
to get the marshmallow juice out of the root, that root juice out. So they replaced it with gelatin in the 1900s.
Poor marshmallow plants, like imposters.
Yeah.
You're a
I could have
poser.
finished some more.
Could have, but you're not. You're not. There are some other interesting ones that I plan to share with you. Let's talk about the Babylonian skull cure.
Oh, is that the? I'll let you. Yeah.
You want me to talk about it? Or
No, I'd love to.
Armin's like, I know this.
I think I have an idea.
Did
but
that last weekend.
So the Babylonians, they thought that most illnesses were caused by demonic forces. And they were
like where this is
punishments
going.
from the gods and things. So doctors back then were more like priests and exorcists.
Right.
Is what they were more like. If a patient, for example, if they ground their teeth, the healer thought that perhaps the ghost of a deceased family member was sort of haunting them a bit. And so the cure was to take a skull and sleep next to the human skull for 1 week. And that would get rid of the grinding.
Did it
teeth.
have to be a specific skull?
A deceased family member.
I see.
Yes, a deceased.
I want to know who it was for
Oh yeah.
stranger.
We don't keep deceased family members' skulls around anymore, though. So
Would they have
that
had
would
to
be difficult.
like how long ago did I have so many specific questions.
I wasn't grinding my teeth because I wasn't sleeping.
All right, like did the skull have to be a pure skull? Could it still have like
Skin on it?
skin and
Oh,
stuff on
stop
it?
No.
I thought you were talking about because there was another like pretty widespread practice where they take like holes out of the skull to like kind of release
Oh yeah.
like that energy. You see it like I think it was a lot in like South American culture. I think I just remember seeing a documentary about that, but.
No bueno.
No,
No gracias, por favor.
what about bloodletting?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do you still do it?
Yeah.
Only on Thursdays. So for thousands of years, medical practitioners clung to the belief that sickness was merely a result of a little bad blood. Just a little bad blood. So bloodletting began with the ancient Sumerians and Egyptians, but it didn't become common practice until classical Greece. Physicians maintained that the human body was filled with 4 basic substances or humors: yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood. And these needed to be kept in balance to maintain proper health. With this in mind, patients with a fever or other ailments were often diagnosed with an overabundance of blood.
My gosh. I don't want as much phlegm as I have blood.
I was gonna say like
That's a big problem. You need your tissue
So
again.
to restore the body harmony and the balances, their doctor would simply cut open a vein
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
and drain some of their vital fluids
No.
into a receptacle.
What would they do with
my
it?
God.
In some cases, leeches were even used to suck the blood directly from their skin.
I actually have nightmares about leeches sometimes.
Yeah.
like this
Stand
is
by
a
me.
real world problem that I feel like I had as a kid. Leeches and quicksand were like my biggest fear.
Really?
Yeah, quicksand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Where did? Where was the quicksand gonna be? Like,
I don't know, but as a kid, it felt like everything I watched there was quicksand. I'm like, it could be around the corner. You don't know.
It just seemed like it was going to be a much bigger problem than it actually is.
Yes, and leeches as well. But I purposely don't go into jungles for this reason.
Or the
Naturally.
lake.
Yeah.
Are you often around jungles? And you're like, I'm gonna turn right now.
Yeah, right. Like, sorry, not today, jungles. Not today.
Okay.
You're not getting me.
All right. Okay. I feel like you've got your computer here, but I
I
feel
do.
as though George Washington died from complications of bloodletting. I feel he had a cough type thing, and so I think maybe.
I know there was I think it might have been Garfield who died of
Like the
The
cat?
cat.
Oh yeah. It was a tragedy.
This is why we sit in this studio.
But he died because like the instruments that the doctors were using, because he was shot, and then the instruments they used were like not clean, so that he got an
They
infection
dropped
from it.
They pulled him out of the mud. And they were
Exactly.
like,
They were like, oh, this is good enough.
well, I mean, there in this, and I don't have time to go through all of these, but there were a lot of healing things that have to do with our excrement as well. Yep. So like things like that. Was I right on George Washington? Or
Well,
was I
this
wrong?
says that George Washington died of a throat infection.
Yep, he had a throat infection, but I thought
And Garfield had sepsis.
I swear that George
Not
Washington,
surprising.
they were still bloodletting at the time, and in order to deal with the throat infection, they were
Ew.
Not in
letting
his
blood,
throat,
and
I
that
hope.
actually is what killed him because
Oh yeah.
I'm right.
Yep.
Yeah, they like let too much blood out.
Oh, jeez.
They bled him 4 times over the next 8 hours and removed like a total of 40% of his blood.
Oh, my gosh.
Crazy.
Trial and error again.
Yep.
I guess that was too much, guys.
Right?
How about this? Have you ever heard the term snake oil?
Yes.
Yes.
Snake oil hasn't always just been a euphemism. For centuries, oil from the Chinese water snake was an actual treatment used in traditional medicine to relieve joint pain. In fact, it is still used today. Snake oil seems to have been brought to America by laborers who worked on the Transcontinental Railroad. This was back-breaking work, and the laborers are thought to have rubbed the oil on their aching joints. We know today that snakes are a rich source of some acid, EPA, and omega-3 fatty acid that has anti-inflammatory properties.
I do know the latest trend in facials and face care is snail goo.
What is it supposed to do?
Goo your face up.
Something.
Snake oil or snail glue?
I'm really
snail goo, what would you use?
79,
Neither.
but
That
I
sounds
use
terrible.
snail goo on my face. So here, there's one last thing I want to talk about. And we've talked about it this season already on the podcast, and it is placebos. There is research and there are studies that placebos and our mind can heal itself. Because people who are given a drug and they believe this drug, right? We know a placebo study, and it is just for our listeners, right? So one thing is going to be an actual drug, and then the other thing is going to be
Sugar
a
pill.
Yeah, it's just a sugar pill. Well, people who believe that they are getting the real thing.
I'm sorry, you have some really interesting pictures happening over here.
Well, it's the power of belief.
It is the power
It's
of
the
belief.
power of belief.
And so what happens when you believe that is the brain actually releases chemicals.
Yep.
We have healing chemicals in our brain, including one called our internal opioid. And dopamine is one of them.
It's dope.
Yeah, yes, right? And so what happens, and this is one of the things, reasons also why being athletic or running or exercise can be beneficial, because you do release dopamine and your brain releases things into your body. And those things are actually healing chemicals that your body produces. And so by doing those activities, sometimes you automatically release those, which is why people sometimes believe that running, for example, can help prevent certain kinds of diseases and things, because running stimulates your brain to release a chemical that then heals your body before you might even know you have some of these things.
Same thing with hugging.
Oh, tell me about this one. That sounds so lovely.
That's really all I had.
That's the healing power of touch.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It releases like oxytocin.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's just another way that the brain is then releasing those things.
Yeah. That's why you should get 8 hugs a day. Somewhere, I don't know who came up with this number, but somebody said
Probably you.
I probably did. I was like, how many hugs do we need? I think they said 4 hugs a day for just to like sustain, and 8 hugs a day for like, I don't know.
Positivity.
Yeah, something like that.
Like an apple a day.
Yeah, but better.
But I think about that healing power of belief. It's like if someone you know is going on an interview or doing something new and you're like, you can do this.
Yeah.
Your faith in them helps them believe in themselves, and they are generally likely to do better because other people are supporting them. And it kind of loops back to what Jen was talking about with community, where it's like, if we can heal people with words too, like, I believe in you, you matter, I care.
Yes, because I feel like when other people say those things,
Those same chemicals are released. It's
yes.
like, oh,
Yes.
I'm not alone.
And we feel not alone. We feel we can do more. We feel that I can handle this. There's so much more that we can do when we have that army of people saying those things. Healing is a process. It is a process, I feel, that we should be continually and actively growing in ourselves. I don't think that we should isolate healing in a silo and say, well, I'm fine right now. I have no scrape on my left arm. I have nothing wrong with me at this moment. I think healing and growth can be so linked together, and it is not for the function or process or reason of being cured. Because curing is not the end goal, right? What is it that healing can provide to us? It can provide strength in other ways. Stronger bonds with people, better listening skills. Healing can provide us with a way to move forward in our relationships. It is a way that we can then become healers for other people, caretakers for other people, whether it is someone in our family or it's someone experiencing what we have experienced and they are becoming a caretaker. We can help them through those processes. Now, we haven't gotten to our healing practices today without a few stink bombs in it, and I didn't even talk to you about the fart in a jar one, and it's literally what it was called, okay?
That's amazing.
We have at times gone through things that have not led to perhaps the best healing. And sometimes our own coping mechanisms are not the best healing processes. But sometimes the simplest is the best. It takes a lot to heal, whether it's a lot of our own selves rushing to our aid, or it's a lot of our community coming together to help us through this healing process. Healing is okay. Healing is a process. It is not an end result. I wish for you all to continue actively in your process of healing, whatever that is and whenever that is. Sometimes simple is better. Stillness contrasted with movement.
Imbalance.
Balance. Family, people, talking, positivity, encouragement, and grace on yourself. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Dominic. You found your name funny?
I don't know. It was so lyrical how you were saying it. I'm Jenna.
Annie Barsh.
I'm Rozzy.
I'm Harmon.
And you've been listening to One Word.
Get it together.
I'm sorry.
One word.
One word.
Thank you all for joining us. Join us next month when our word is jolly. See you next time.
One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.